maybe unemployment or other financial distress because of the pandemic?
I absolutely think it's probably because of the pandemic. Still, we're still seeing a lot of overflow from the pandemic, in regards to that and other issues as well.
Okay, thank you. No, and I think the only other observation I had, and I'm curious, you had mentioned kind of seeing where our numbers are for calls that we're getting received from the communities, and May looked like it was still low. I think hopefully the trend will still continue to be that way. But I'm looking forward to seeing if we can keep the numbers down, or hopefully the numbers will be kept down, and we don't return back to the 60 and 70 or above calls that we saw in prior to the pandemic. But,
Yeah, and those are reported. I'm trying to give a comparison on the reported calls, even in comparison to what we pick up, because I think it's important to see what's reported out there as well. Because if we're going in and fixing these animals and our reported numbers are dropping, then that's saying something is working. There's these animals aren't as much out on the street, as well as what we're doing. You know,
absolutely. Okay, that's all I had. Is there any additional questions for Mary Lou? Okay, I'm not seeing any hands, so thank you, Mary Lou. Appreciate your presentation.
Thank you.
All right, we're on to agenda item 4B, shelter statistics and activities. Mr. Thacker.
Thank you, sir. So, I have before you the ASCMV Director's Report for the month of, what will this be, May. Can you see my screen, sir?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now this year this month I should say, we're going to do something a little bit different. Because 2020 was such an odd year, and you can see it right here in our animal count, we threw in 2019 to get a comparison of some actual numbers, and also to see, you can see how close we're getting to that quote unquote norm that we were at before COVID. So it's alarming how fast that number is going to be hitting that 2019 number of the 685. So a year ago, we were at 238 animals. We were able to keep up with care for the animals that were here. We had great health. 2021, we're at 560, which means that we have twice as many animals, and things aren't suffering. We're keeping up with the medical care, and we're keeping up with sterilization, but it's caused us a lot more stress as far as our infrastructure on the employees. We were able to operate a lower number of employees before because we wanted to keep it down because of COVID, our employee numbers, but now we're scrambling to get those numbers back up and higher. But room is the overall issue, honestly, right now. Room as far as the number of animals. We are not going to go back to what we were doing in 2019 and before, and that was basically in the best way possible. We were warehousing animals. That is, animals in wire crates along the sides, in the hallways. We had 2, sometimes 3 large dogs per kennel, and it was all in the spirit. It was well-meaning of keeping animals alive, and I hope that we can do something that will continue to keep us those low numbers and help us out. You'll see as we go through here how we're beginning to climb up. So our intake in between 2019, 20, and 21, you can see that we're not that far behind. We're a little ways, but 897 in 2019 and 713 in 2021. So it's slowly increasing. Dogs, continue to be that high number, and so do cats. Honestly, if you look at cats, there's not much of a change between 2019 and 2021. It just looks like about, was that 49 animals or so, 50 animals or so. So Now this is a new slide that we added in. What this one is showing the number of animals that are coming in or that have gone out to rescues. These are not animals that just came in this month. These are animals that has been in our facility anywhere from way back years and years all the way to just came in the other day. So this essentially is giving you information just like the Coalition for People and Pets used to give you. As you can see, our bigger partners that we have, Colorado Puppy Rescue, Cruise Crusaders, Halo Animal Rescue, New Hope Rescue are kind of our big players and who are sending things out. Enchanted Pass Animal Rescue took 27 cats, which is amazing for us. Action Program for Animals, they are such a huge help. They're a local rescue, and their kitten effort is literally keeping us afloat right now for what they're doing. They're taking newborn and bottle feeders and helping us up there. So kudos to our rescues, 282 animals total gone out, 179 dogs, 100 cats. We would not be able to save lives like we are without their help, and we appreciate every single one of them. So the higher number, we had 7. Looking at these though, these are all recent adoptions or also surrenders. For instance, for the 2 cats, we had they had it for 6 days, and the landlord doesn't approve or doesn't allow. We had another cat, they had it for 4 days, and it just scratched a lot, they said, so they brought the animal back. It's crazy that cats scratch. It's amazing. Behavior for the dogs. We have a dog. It was an adoption. They had it for 2 days. They said that it bit a puppy. Oh, a doctor thinks puppy was too hyper for their own dog. Let's see. There was one brought back for a parvo watch after they had it for 2 days. The other, they had it for 3 days and there was post-operation issues, so they just brought them back. They didn't want to deal with that issues. Another one they had for 5 days, owner was allergic. So what I'm getting at is we had another one for 1 day, and another one, they could not afford basic care. They weren't the original owner. They got it from a family member, and they just didn't want it anymore, period. So what I'm getting at is these are not animals that, were rescued or adopted during the pandemic from last year. During that time, these were all recent within the last 30 days or so. Actually, within the last 2 or 3 weeks for that. These are outcome statistics. We kept 2019 out of it and just compared to 2020 and 21, not for any specific reason, just to have even space. We had, as you see, 2021, we had 11.5% of the adoptions. So that's fantastic. As you see the higher number, keep in mind that we really want to focus on this percentage versus just the raw number, because it looks really good, but there was a totally different number of animals that were in the center at that time and coming in. We ended with euthanasia at 11%, so less than the 14%, and we had 87% live release rate. Again, euthanasia reasons, feral cats continue to be the #1 reason, and behavior aggressive animal dogs. And then the next one down from there is medical general for dogs and cats. This was an interesting slide to me. This number jumped up quite a bit. We had in May 838 people visit the center. This is still using the appointment schedules. This is still using, call in, see what animal you want to visit with. So we're excited to see that increase. And I believe it's just a continuation of summer months and people wanting to get out. We had 136 adoption appointments and 59 of those were considered finalized adoption, or 59% were considered finalized adoptions. So a little over half of the appointments that are being made are ending in adoptions. Our website views, that jump up from 41,000 correlates really well with our increase in our visitors. So we're glad to see that. Facebook views also jumped up. And that's our presentation. This is Bale and Emmett. They're our pets of the week for the Animal Service Center. And I can answer any questions that you have.
Okay, any questions? I see Commissioner Allens. We'll do Commissioner Allens, then we'll come to Vice Chair Abate-Stuve, and then Councilor Flores. Go ahead, Commissioner Allens.
You're on mute, sir.
Commissioner Allens, we can't hear you at the moment.
You can, if you press and hold the space bar down while you talk.
There we go.
Okay. Clint, Channel 7 did a short piece on the Animal Service Center on Tuesday. And one of the things that you talked about was the fact that adoptions were way down compared to other years, and in the 600s as compared to the 800 or 900s. Could you comment further on that?
Yeah, I can. So year to date, so January 1st to the date that I did that on Tuesday, we had 653 adoptions, whereas in 2020 and 2019, we were in 900s for the adoptions for that same time period. And that was alarming. We're continuing to push as we're doing a special right now for Father's Day week for $25 adoptions. And we're pushing also on Facebook for that. I really think people are just getting tired of the pandemic stuff, and I don't know. But yeah, adoptions are down.
Were we able to offset that by shipping out to other states and to the rescues?
Yeah, if you saw, our rescue numbers were a little bit percentage-wise, they were higher than what they were last month or last year. The other good news is we're back out at Farmers Market. We're doing those, and as soon as our staffing increases, we'll be able to get back out and do our other offsite adoption areas too.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Allens. Okay, Vice Chair Abate-Stuve.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Clint. A little bit to piggyback off of what Commissioner Allens said, I know that we did some price changes recently. Do you feel like that has been a factor to any of these lower adoption levels? Because I know we said we wanted to look at that and just see what that effect was.
We thought the same thing, and for the last 3 months, we've been tracking what the price was of what people are adopting, and surprisingly enough, there's more of the unsterilized adoption amount of that 150 than any others. And so people are paying the $150 to get the pet, and then we sterilize it here at the center before it leaves. And that was alarming. That was huge. And I can send the numbers to the board because, yeah, we do track it every single month. But I do not believe that our change in adoptions are that changed, because we also did that, I believe, in 2020 or 2019, 2020. It was in 2020 that we changed that price. Okay.
And then my second question is, as we are starting to return back to no restrictions at all for the state and those types of levels, I know that we've been operating with a kind of call ahead to view animals. Are you planning on changing that anytime soon? And do we think that that might, if with the ability of just walk-ins, if that will help at all for people to come in and view the animals and potential adoptions?
This has been a pretty hot topic conversation in our manager meetings. There's kind of two voices right now in there. One is that we should open back up and have people who want to come in and walk through. But then the other side, and it's a very good point, is that look how healthy our herd, our animal population is right now. And that's because we don't have people walking through and sticking their hands and going from kennel to kennel. Also, another one is that when people come, and if there is an appointment time open, we accept them. We say, okay, what animal is it you want to see? So right now the thought is that when we go on July 6th is going to be the first day that we're open back up. It's the first day after the 4th of holiday. Then we are going to have our doors open, which means people can come right in. They can talk with us. They can work on licensing. They can do all these things. But we are still going to be doing right now the appointments for the adoptions. We just think that it makes the most sense. However, with that said, if somebody, like I said, comes in and says, I'd like to look at your adoptable animals, and we say, okay, we have an appointment time available, then we'll have them right in for that. But right now, yes, we're sticking with appointments.
Okay.
As things continue to fall, we'll make changes.
Okay. And thank you. You touched upon my third question was going to be about that of licensing, registration, all that type of items, if those would be fully available for the public for walk-in once the 6 started.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Okay, Councilor Flores.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, colleagues, for your questions to Clint. So, Clint, as far as the appointments go, you did report at one point that by doing by having appointments, adoptions became more efficient, more predictable as a result of people just walking through and not necessarily adopting. Am I correct in that memory, or is my memory lacking?
No, you are correct. We're seeing that's the reason. Instead of people just wanting to come in and look and see what we have, we only have interested parties wanting to adopt a specific animal making an appointment. So it just feels like it's much more streamlined than serving individuals who may not want to partake, right? And versus serving individuals that have a specific animal in mind they want to see.
And are you collecting data as to the number of returns? You know, people that just say, no, we can't do this adoption after all. And the correlation between people walking in and people, did you collect do you have any data to compare the number of adoptions after an appointment as opposed to walk-ins?
Well, we have years and years worth of data of doing it the old way, pre-COVID, of people just walking in and doing adoptions. And then we have, since we changed in 2020, with that appointment base, we have that information as well. So we can do some comparisons for that. It would be interesting to see. It's kind of skewed because before, remember, we were counting everybody who came into the center. So if a family of 4 came in, that would be 4 people versus now we only allow 2 people.
Mm-hmm.
So that, I don't know how we would accurately measure that. It would be severely skewed.
Yeah. I get it. Yeah, it would be skewed. So you don't have any data as to the success rate. Yeah, numbers are skewed, and therefore you really can't see what. Something just popped up. So yeah, I'm just trying to, because I think that the information you shared is that everything is a lot better things flow a lot better when you don't have people just showing up serendipitous, just willy-nilly. And some of them, I think that when someone makes an appointment, if I may just offer an opinion here or a perspective or whatever, a comment, is that I think that when someone makes a conscious decision to make an appointment to see a pet, that person is already predisposed to look at an animal and consider it as a new family member, as opposed to someone who just decides on, just kind of very, again, very, but just decides on the spur of the moment that maybe it'd be a nice thing to do to just go over there, and then it adopts a pet, and then it returns a pet. I was wondering, Clint, then if there's any way of collecting data between between people that are, if you can in any way, oh man, let me see, somehow gather data that shows the potential keepers and those who are just doing this just on the spur of the moment, just thoughtlessly walking in and taking a pet and then deciding, well, that cat scratches. Oh, what a novel idea, cat scratch. Or that it's had surgery, it knows it's had surgery, it's going to need post-surgery, but then it returns a pet anyway. So I'm just wondering if there's any way of really filtering people that would, because I think the return is pretty high, right?
Well, I think as we go, and if we have a high month of adoptions in a month, that possibility of returns increases, because the more you have out, the more possibility of coming back. But yeah, that 7 is a high number compared to past months where we've been at 4, 5, 3, things like that.
So Clint, do you have a questionnaire for potential adopters? A questionnaire as to get any insight as to whether they know exactly what they're getting into, the commitment level it requires to have a new family member, to have the wherewithal. I mean, I understand COVID having an effect on people saying, I just can't afford a dog or a pet anymore. But that aside.
Yes, ma'am. We do have a questionnaire, kind of like an adoption questionnaire that we have. More importantly, we have staff who go over those questions with them. It's like a bit of a process. It's a conversation that we have with them instead of just marking down on a paper, yes, yes, yes. So each individual has a conversation with the front staff representative, and so verbally they're told all those things as well and given the paper.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you, Clint. I was just, I just want to, I think it's really hard on our little critters that are adopted and then just returned. And and it must be horrible on staff too, from the from the paperwork to the emotional side of having pets returned after a day or so, right? I mean, there are some that just take them home and then come right back. So just wondering if there's any way, any mechanism, any kind of survey, I don't know, interview to really decide, to weigh, the adoption process. Thank you very much, Clint. Thank you, your staff as well, for all the work you do. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Councilor Flores. Clint, I just wanted to make a note and say thank you. I know seeing the data of how many of the animals end up going to the rescues and all the rescues that participate in everything that you've done over the past month, I think has been, it's eye-opening to see the data, and I appreciate Vice Chair Betha-Stuvey pushing to see that data. 282 animals, and we're still at capacity, I think is it's alarming, but it also shows how much the community is helping. So I appreciate your efforts. I appreciate the efforts of all the rescues that you all are coordinating with. I just wanted to make a comment about that. And also thank you. I'm looking, you've commented a couple of times about the offsite events at the farmers market. So I'm glad to see that we're returning to those, and hopefully as you've seen the foot traffic increase at the service center, but hopefully as you continue to get out into the community and people see that, that will only continue to help that increase with getting visibility to the animals, visibility to what you all do within the organization. So thank you. Commissioner Allens, I see your hand raised.
Yeah, Clint, you and I talked about this, but a couple of weeks ago, there was a piece in the Sun News about 6 animals that would have to be put down unless they were adopted or somehow transferred. And since we're on CLC TV, I think the public would like to know that those 6 animals were either sent to a rescue or were transferred out of state, so they were not put down. And I'm sorry there was no follow-up article on that in the newspaper. But
oh, that's fine. Yeah, so it was actually 8 animals, 8 dogs that we had here at the center. They all had behavior issues, anything from just jumping to food issues, when they're fed with the cow milk. So a vast spread of issues there. And they all went out either adopted, rescued, or fostered. We did have one that was returned that was an issue enough that we did euthanize that one that was returned. But other than that, yeah, the 7 were able to get out and be successful. So we're happy about that.
thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Allens. Are there any other questions for Mr. Thacker? Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it, Clint.
Thank you.
All right. We're now on to, I guess, the second half of what is shown as 4B, which is our Coalition for Pets and People recognition. Jean, are you there?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. And just for the board, I know, we received a letter from Jean that indicated that she was going to be stepping away from her role with CFPP. And so with discussions, we wanted to provide, or at least give our appreciation to Jean for all that she's done. I know that since I joined the board in 2019, she's been a fixture in our agendas, in our meetings, providing updates for all the rescues that participate in the Coalition for Pets and People. I know we just talked about the numbers that Clint presented in and the role that the rescues play. And so one thing I know is that it's a labor of love, everything that you do with the Coalition for Pets and People. And I wanted to say thank you. We want to say thank you on behalf of the Animal Service Center, the Mesilla Valley Board of Directors. And so we've got this, we will be presenting you with this award that you see on the screen. And if I can, I'd like to take a moment to read the certificate here. So it says here, the Animal Service Center of the Mesilla Valley Board of Directors would like to thank Jean Gilbert for her outstanding service to the center and for the care and commitment she has shown for the welfare of animals. Jean guarded all animals, including the homeless, malnourished, and young, making a unique difference to their quality of life. And it's presented on June 24th, 2021. So Jean, thank you so much for all that you've done for the Coalition of Pets and People. Thank you for bringing the message to the board of directors for the ASCMV all this time. And we wish you all the best.
Thank you very, very much. I feel so honored. And just for clarification purposes, I do want to say that I'm not stepping away from the coalition. I still remain in a leadership role with the coalition along with Rick Hahn, but I am stepping away or retiring from the role of presenting the PowerPoint, which I was titling the Community Animal Welfare Report. So I was doing that on a monthly basis, and probably I want to say for about 4 years. And I do want to say that I've really appreciated the opportunity to be able to share the stats and the highlights and the information of the important life-saving programs of so many of the amazing animal welfare groups that are doing such important work here in Las Cruces, and they are helping our Animal Services Center, bringing us closer and closer to our no-kill community goals. So thank you so much for the opportunity, and I hope that you as a board will consider, some kind of an alternative or option. I know I've suggested perhaps inviting different reps of organizations, such as we had Tricia Quillen at last month's meeting, and that way you'll get perhaps a little more in depth, because I know you're interested in their stats and their services and how everything intersects. So, well, thank you again. I feel very honored and appreciate it very much.
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Ellens.
Jean, is there any likelihood that there'll be a successor designated to do what you've been doing?
I don't think so. I don't think so. But maybe it's something you could inquire about, I guess. But I'm not aware of anyone at this time. So.
Now, I know that since the gloves have been taken off with regard to the COVID, are the rescues now doing public events? For instance, at Pet Barn, which I pass by a lot, they consistently entertain, I think, canine.
Cherished canines. Uh-huh.
Yeah,
yes, I think that
canines.
some of the groups are starting back now with activities gradually.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Ellens. Mayor Pro Tem Gandara.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jean, thank you so much for your leadership and your participation. It was much appreciated, but not only your participation, but just your care and consideration related to the animals, your thoughtful questions, and I wish you well, and I'm sure I'll see you around. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Councilor Flores.
Thank you, Jean, so much for your work, and also for the care and love that you've extended to our animal population and your presentations to the board. Thank you so much. And I think I agree with, or how should I say, I think that your idea of having a spotlight on all of the volunteer organizations that work with animals would be great. Like maybe Mr. Chair and fellow board members, if we could showcase an agency at a time, and it would be called Agency Spotlight. And an agency would be report specifically on what they do, and then they wouldn't be taxed with, and not that I'm saying that Jean Gilbert said she was taxed, but it seemed to me an incredible job to get all the organizations and then do the reports on them. So still have that connection. That would be my suggestion to you, Mr. For fellow agenda, for subsequent agendas. Again, thank you so much, Jean. And I've enjoyed.
Thank you, Yvonne, very much. And of course, I will continue to do committee work, as you know. In fact, I've been involved with Yvonne on a committee, so I will continue doing that, certainly.
Thank you, Jean. And thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Flores. And I'll make a note real quick before we move to Vice Chair Betastubi that we do have under discussion items exploring community engagement, which I had hoped we would be able to discuss this a little further. So Councillor Betastubi.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Jean, so much for all the work that you've done. In all my meetings in all the committees, it's oftentimes you don't get to hear the real happy stories or success stories that you do with the presentations you get. And I just think of all the animal stories that you've brought forth with us with the different rescues. And it becomes the highlight, I think, of my month to get that good information and to really see that. And I really just thank you for all the work that you put into, and we look forward to working with you just in a different capacity. And so thank you. And thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Madam Vice.
Thank you.
Mr. Thacker.
I just wanted to see the same, Jean, and tell you thank you very much for all that you've done for the Coalition for People and Pets here on the board. Without you, there would have been nobody to speak for those rescues, and the rescues are such an integral part of what we are doing here at the center. So thank you for being that bridge and bringing that information to the board. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Clint. You're amazing to work with, and I look forward to working with you in the future, of course, in a different capacity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jean. I appreciate again. Thank you for all that you've done for the community and with ASCMV. So hopefully we'll get you that the certificate soon. So thank you very much.
All right. Thanks again. Bye-bye.
Okay, we're now on to agenda item 4C1, which is or committee reports. So the first will be the Finance Committee. Mr. Enriquez.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair Sanchez. There was a Finance Committee meeting that took place on June 17th. I was unable to attend, but Interim Finance Director Leanne DeMooch was the chair of that meeting, and she informed me that there was no concerns or issues with finance. So with that, I will turn it over to Josh Safko that will give the finance report. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. My name is Josh Saffel, and on behalf of the Finance Department of the City of Las Cruces, I would like to present the unaudited financials as of May 31st, 2021. Hopefully everyone can see my screen.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So starting off with our statement of net positions, we see that in the general fund, we had cash of $888,753, receivable of $89,401, which gave us total assets of $978,154. We had liabilities of $64,301, revenue collected in advance of $55,501, which left us with an unassigned fund balance in the general fund of $858,352. In the Capital Projects Fund, we had total assets of $29,798 and a restricted fund balance of $29,798. We also, in our Capital Assets Fund, had capital assets, which are net of the accumulated depreciation, in the amount of $185,278, and an unassigned fund balance of $185,278. Moving on to our change in net position, our total revenue for the period was $3,005,409, and our total expenditures were $2,318,805. So in the general fund, that left us with a positive net change of $686,604. For the capital projects fund, of course, we're trying to spend down fund balance, so there was no revenue, but we did have total expenditures for the period year to date of $1,767. And in the capital assets fund, we recognized depreciation expense of $38,711. Looking at our budget to actual, the total revenue of $3,005,409 was 86.4% of the budget, while our total expenditures of $2,318,000 was 65.2%. This being the 11th month, that meant our budget parameter was 91.67%. So again, we see that our total revenue is now below that a little bit, and our total expenditures is actually quite a bit below that. Looking at our revenues versus expenditures, monthly grant, we'll see that primarily our revenues have pretty much leveled off. They're now just about the same each month, but we continue to see variations in the expenditures. 7 out of the past 11 months, the expenditures have actually been under our revenue, which is good. And for a few months, they were above, but that is to be expected. Looking at percentage of total expenditures, our total expenditures again were $2,318,805. Of that, 73% was for personnel expenses, 15% was for services, 6% was for supplies, 2% repairs and maintenance, 2% insurance, and 1% in other, and 1% in capital. That will conclude the finance report. Are there any questions?
Okay, I don't see any hands up, but I don't know. My computer is having issues. I don't know if you all can still hear me or.
Yeah, sure we can.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna. And I just I just lost my screen, so I'm going to continue on. If like I said, I can't see the screen at the moment to see if there's any questions. Is there, if you don't mind speaking up really quickly, if there's any questions.
Chair, this is Vice Chair Abeyta-Stubbe. It doesn't look like there's any questions or hands up.
Thank you, Vice Chair Abeyta-Stubbe. Okay, think of that, Mr. Saffel. Appreciate the update.
Sorry,
Chair
you're
Saffel,
muted.
we can't hear you.
There we go. Okay, thank you. Okay, well, moving on to the executive committee. We met, myself, Mr. Thacker, and Vice Chair Abeyta-Stubbe met on June 9th. The only thing I had noted was we had discussed possible trying to identify opportunities for community engagement, which is on the agenda today. We're discussed also some of the maintenance issues that I know that have been that they've been working through, trying to get some fix and within the facility, and then just in general the facility capacity, and then discussions around the practices we do both in the county and the city for ACO, and trying to see where there are opportunities here that we can try to minimize, or at least hopefully prevent the issues of overcrowding that we've seen, or going over capacity. So, but that was really it that I had noted. I don't know, Madam Vice Chair or Mr. Thacker, if there was anything else that you wanted to add, or maybe I missed in my notes.
None from me, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
None from me, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Okay. Are there any questions on the executive committee? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on to the facilities committee. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, thank you. I actually found my notes from June 3rd. Clint is always good to meet and discuss, and some of the issues at that point. There was some issues, I understand, with the air conditioners in the kennels, certain kennels. I had here SA1, SB. There was opportunity to reach out to the city. They sent some, the appropriate staff over. There was a bit of non-communication about the issue. I think as we were discussing that, I'd reached out to our city management team, and they've addressed that with facilities, and I believe it has been addressed and corrected. Clint, please correct me if I'm wrong on the issue with the air.
Everything's looking good. I think we still have, it like rotates.
Yeah.
For some reason, it goes from kennel to kennel. Right now, we have a totally different kennel that is a little muggy, and we're working. We've already that just happened yesterday. We put a request in for them to come, so we'll hopefully see them today.
Okay, good. And so, of course, that gives me pause specifically because of the amount of money that we put forth for the HVAC system. It's a pretty new system. And so I'm sure it's still under warranty. I think one of the bigger issues is communication, right, with facilities and addressing those issues timely. And I think that we have now a better process as it relates to this particular item and anything related to facilities. I believe that our facilities manager is meeting once a month with Clint, and we'll continue to do that. And I think that will be just so much more helpful than, kind of a reactionary way of handling things. And so I expect really good things from this meeting, and just coordinating and collaborating and communicating effectively about the issues surrounding the facility in itself. We talked about the prep work that was started at the new center. Since then, we've had the groundbreaking, and I hope that everybody had a chance to see that. It was a few of us were in person, but it was virtually and being highlighted through the city website. Really excited. I've seen some pictures on Facebook that they've done some significant work clearing out the ground and things. I don't know, Clint, if you have some additional input that you'd like to add here.
You basically covered it. They're just, right now, they're scalping the ground and clearing that for the vegetation away. I love what they're doing with the water trucks. They bring the water trucks in to keep the dust down. Yeah. And then they scalp the ground, and I think they're going to be starting to relocate some lines here pretty quick and moving dirt. So we're excited for that. I think what we're going to do is a weekly picture and on Facebook so they can see that progress going.
That's a really good idea. Thank you for doing that. And then, of course, we talked about vacancies and where we at, and with that, I didn't get a lot of specifics around that. Clint, I don't know if you want to add where you're at with the veterinarian, some of the other volunteer coordinators, those things, the grant writer. I know those were all still sort of up in the air when we talked last.
Yes, the grant writer position has been offered to an individual. So pending a negative drug testing result, they'll be starting here soon in onboarding. So we'll wait for that before we give a name or anything out. But that's looking really good. And then we have interviews for all of our animal caregivers are today and tomorrow, and some on Monday. We have our veterinarian assistant, surgical assistant position that's open, and applicants are applying for that. Our office assistants, I believe, are going to be doing interviews next week. So our volunteer coordinator interviews next week. Our rescue coordinator, again, interviews next week. So it's slowly, we're moving through the processes, but we're getting there. So hopefully we'll be up and fully going in July.
Did you mention anything about the veterinarian?
Oh, yes, the veterinarian, it's still open recruitment on the veterinarian position. We have not gotten anybody in that role, no, as of yet. Our next task, what we're going to do is I'm working with Dr. Haddon, and we're going to get a brochure made, working with our marketing department, with Wilson Binkley. And we really like to get something that is more than just a job description, right? We want the good points about Las Cruces and get it out to a lot of these areas. Maybe send the information to the local veterinarians in case they know of anybody. We're going to be sending it out. We got a list of a lot of the vet schools that are in the Southwest areas that, somebody that doesn't have to move quite as far. I mean, everything's on the table. We're looking into maybe a possible signing bonus. We're looking into the ways or lowering the requirements for the number of years experience. I mean, just everything's on there. We really want to get the position filled.
Thank you, Clint, so much. I'm wondering if through the work with the executive committee, if we can talk about a fellowship program, maybe paying for an individual's, last year of education, or offering a stipend of sorts with the promise of coming and working for, several months, something like that. And so I'm looking to Chair Sanchez and Vice Chair Abeta Stubbe to have maybe those conversations, or maybe we have a work session very specifically about what that might look like. I think those are probably some helpful things to do, to at least look at.
Yeah, if the police department can give money to recruiters that are coming on, or to people signing on, I'm sure we can figure out a similar program. We can do it too. Because I'm being serious, the groundwork is already there to do that kind of thing. So yeah, we can piggyback on something like that.
Okay, and we also spoke of just the number of large animals and animals in general in the center. We talked a lot about strays and just the number of folks, right, that are bringing animals in, owner surrenders. We've had some discussion about what that might look like related to how the city should get on board and providing some funding with spade and neuter, trap, neuter release programs. And so I'm asking, very specifically to Mr. Enriquez to call the task force meeting together, the task force group together, to really have discussion about this, because it's really affecting our numbers. And more specifically, I think our animal codes, specifically for the city, ACOs are very limited. I think there's quite a few vacancies, and so we talked a lot about the tools that they have or not have, the vehicles that they have, or in terms of not having air and those things. And so for me, there's a lot that needs to be discussed related to that, and I will commit to having a more thorough conversation with our city manager. But these are all connected, and something that I think that the city should really take a look at. But we're also in the conversations earlier about working in coordination and collaboration with the county related to the spade and neuter program, and looking for a veterinarian. I really want to have some courageous conversations about what that looks like. I think there's some rumor out there related to the county going on their own and the city going on their own, rather than putting our funding together, especially after the new center is built. So I'd really like to address this openly, transparently, and see how we can more rather coordinate and collaborate our efforts moving forward. And that's all that I have in relation to the facilities meeting.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Gandara. I see Councilor Flores has her hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Gandara. As far as holding meetings for transparency's sake, a pre-formation task force committee has met on 2 occasions, perhaps 3 occasions, and that was at the request of Jerry Wheelis, who is a member of the task force, the Animal Task Force Committee that focused on the rewriting of the city ordinance. And we met because the city ordinance regarding TNR, which will only affect the city's enforcement, it's a regulation that will depend on city enforcement. So we have met, and we've met 3 times actually. At the first meeting was Jerry Wheelis, Athena Huckabee, Jean Gilbert, and I. The second meeting was the four of us again, and no, Athena Huckabee was not at the second one, but we did meet with Mr. Enriquez, and we met at City Hall. Mr. Enriquez suggested that we, have these discussions perhaps at a later time, but we nonetheless met again at the East Mesa Safety Complex. I don't have the specific dates, but these were like 2 or 3 week increments. And the reason we're meeting is because we are anticipating the very same questions you've raised, Mayor Pro Tem Gandara. A big concern, and I have raised it with our city manager, is that we don't have the sufficient ACOs to really implement. And because we're looking at implementation, I know that once the ordinance passes, and I think we had a lot of support, there was only one councilor dissenting on the passage of the resolution, which is really the precursor to the language of the ordinance. But we have to think about the impact it's going to have on the city once it does, and be prepared at the time that the ordinance does go into effect. And it's quite clear, Gino Jimenez made it very clear that the ACO, as it is, there's vacancies there. And I know that the vacancy issues have come up in open city council meetings, that the 3 of us who are on city council, Tessa Ibeda-Stubbe, Cassandra Gandara, and I are very well aware of, where we have many, many vacancies and they haven't been filled. So I'm really glad that Leanne Demouche is in on this meeting, because we have to fill vacancies, especially now especially in many areas, but this is going to make or break our TNR. If we don't have the ACOs, we are not filled to capacity now. We're going to need more as a result of the passage of this prospective ordinance, or the prospective passing of this drafted ordinance. And we also need cars. We need the trucks. We need, we're going to need air conditioning in those trucks. We're going to need all sorts of stuff. So, and this is a conversation I've already had with our city manager. And I think that perhaps we will individually, or the 3 of us on the city council, will definitely approach city manager. And of course, we're also, and I think independent of that, but I think some people see this as a thing that goes hand in hand with the dissolution of the joint powers agreement. I don't see it as one being dependent on the other, because the city ordinance is in fact going to only apply to city residents, or city boundaries. So I just wanted to share that in the event, or just to in any way preclude any perception of lack of transparency. And to make it clear that it's been done because it's a city ordinance, not an ordinance affecting the county. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thanks to you, Councilor Flores. Okay, are there any other questions on for the facilities report? Okay. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Gandara. Appreciate the updates. We're on to agenda item number 5, discussion items. 5A is exploring community engagement. And as I alluded to earlier, we're looking, I guess at the moment, without, or at least without a direct successor to Ms. Gilbert for the Coalition for Pets and People presentations. There was some discussion and around, or at least that I had broached on, was how do we, as a board, have the engagement of the community, in particular the rescues that we coordinate with, and it was twofold. One was, like I said, with Miss Gilbert moving on, but number 2 is that I've been receiving some feedback from the rescues. I guess concerns around the practices of what we're doing, or questions around what the ASCMV is currently doing. And I know Mr. Thacker has also received the same phone calls, but I don't know that the rescues have been providing that message or reaching out to the board as a whole. And so I think this was one of the things that we were looking at, was how do we engage our community partners better. And one of the ideas that I was considering, or at least had, was whether we should look at making another committee for the ASCMV board, along with our current 3. Could we possibly have a community engagement board where we would actually have, or maybe rotate different rescues on, so that way we're getting more feedback of what they're seeing, issues they're seeing, and ways that the ASCMV could possibly partner with them to make something more streamlined within the community going forward. And so I don't have anything in particular other than that idea. I don't know what other board members, I just wanted to have an open discussion to see if there were any thoughts or suggestions along those lines, whether it be a committee for community engagement, or is there another way that we could better engage our partners within the community? Vice Chair Bicta-Stevie, I see your hand up.
Yes, thank you. And apologies, I have a cold for the first time in a year, so I'm pretty muffled. But one of the reasons why I do like this type of idea is not only are we going to get just community engagement, find out what's going on with the rescues, and give everybody an equal, I would say, platform to participate. But the one area that I've been looking for this is to understand is when it comes to policy and different types of things that we see. So if we're going to implement stuff, just like with the cat trap, neuter, and release, we'll be able to get their input on those types of things and look to see what we're working with. So I think it might be an opportunity for us to have those policy discussions with them too, and kind of look at the logistics of what they see on their end. And so that we're engaging them in very meaningful ways. And it might be a little bit easier to set up if we have a standing committee, and we can bring up these ideas to get their feedback on a more regular basis. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Mayor Pro Tem Gandara.
Thank you, Chair Sanchez, for bringing this forward. I see community engagement kind of in 2 ways. One, obviously, is internally, or shall I say, how you defined it initially with our community partners. I like the idea, but I'm hesitating a little bit because I feel like we have this task force that does have county involvement to include many of the animal rescue groups. And so I feel like, and we were meeting regularly, and although it started as really to address some of the engagement issues, it moved into with the idea of working on the code, the changes to our ordinance. And so I don't feel like I want to duplicate the effort. I think there is an existing structure that's already there. I think what has happened is, again, it started as a city sort of task force, but I think it could very easily be moved into what you're addressing. The second part in this two-pronged approach in my head is when I hear community engagement, I also hear about engaging the community in active ways to become, to assist us in terms of policy development, but also this arena that I think we're all having trouble with, which is the responsibility, the pet ownership, right? And what that means. I think that a lot of our work, we're always, I feel, in many ways reactionary, and we skirt around this issue of irresponsible pet owners. And when I hear community engagement, I hear I can't help but to feel like this is a component that really has to be addressed. And lastly, I'll say that I'd really love to hear from the advocacy groups, because I think this is what I think initially you had in mind, was sort of coordinating and collaborating this group when there's already a group that should be meeting and addressing these issues. I think honestly, when you know about groups and the way they form and norm and storm and all that is, we hear sometimes that there isn't, there's great difficulty bringing everybody to the table. And we also hear that there's relational issues, right? About with each other, and lots of competition. There's this whole scarcity mentality. And so I don't mean to be hypercritical, but what I think it's very indicative of our system as a whole, that's what we see in each of our, like the city related to, animal services. And I think we need to work together. This might be a good way to bring together, but I'm very interested in hearing from the advocacy world what they think about this, because I think the only way to be successful is to bring these partners together and really address the issues at hand, have courageous conversations with each other, and really get to the bottom of how we improve community engagement with the idea, the caveat of responsible pet ownership. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, and I appreciate your input, because especially, I guess bringing in you're absolutely right. I think my initial thought was, how do we bring in our community partners? But then, the point you bring up about how do we engage the public so that we can start maybe pushing the initiative around pet ownership, I think is absolutely paramount, especially for the mission of the ASCMV, so that, we can make sure that we get pets in with owners that are responsible. We're not going to be seeing them back as we saw earlier for the cat that scratches. So I appreciate that feedback. And I'm curious, if you don't mind, with around the task force, like you were saying, because I can understand if there's something that already exists, and how we can, engage, bring them into the fold, or at least be able to have that group that can provide some feedback. I think the one thing that I had seen is just, my initial thought was if we had it as a committee, so to speak, would we get more engagement or at least more direct input from the rescues? And so I'm not tied to, and I'll put this out there, I'm not tied to any idea as a whole. I just want to make sure that we can try to, whatever the board feels, and I think as you mentioned, if there's absolutely a better way to go about this, I am all for it. So I see Vice Chair Abeyta-Stuvey, you have your hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, for those comments. I think my question was very similar to Commissioner Sanchez's, where just seeing if this, and this is where I don't have the historical knowledge, but if this task force, if there's that open communication and dialogue going in, and everybody, in theory, all the rescues would have equal access to that task force to be able to give input. Because if they have that kind of relationship, then I think that's great to utilize an already existing tool. The only thought of doing something, or at least calling it new, is giving everybody a fresh, clean start. And so that we have that really great, those conversations, everybody's at the table from the beginning, and then we can work together. So like I said, I don't mind either way, as long as we're progressing forward with getting input from the rescues, from and the community as well. But it's just a thought is, has there been so much history in some of these areas that are we able to move forward? And that's something that I don't have those answers to. Yeah. Thanks, Chair.
I think it's been, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, if I may.
Absolutely.
I think it's been a venue to discuss issues, and sometimes they haven't been easy issues. Sometimes, as we explored the changes to the ordinance, it was a way that we were able, and sometimes those meetings are very widely, not sometimes, most times, widely attended. And I don't know that it has been all of the groups represented, but it was an open forum. Anybody could come. Of course, we would have to follow the Open Meetings Act and not violate, right, quorum and such. But I think it was a way to address issues very openly in a respectful manner, and I felt like we got a lot accomplished. Has it taken us a long time to get to the point? Absolutely, but it's a venue we had, and I guess I think it's a great idea, but I don't feel that it's the board's responsibility to corral all our agencies right in one place to help. It will. I just don't. I think we have a lot of issues, and to address for the center's sake, right? And is this a subset of some of the concerns? Maybe. I don't know, but I just feel that venue exists. I'm not married to one idea either, but I thought that venue was a good way to seek input, and we had staff assistance. We took minutes, and I think it was just a great way to come together, and the group. It was very fluid, right? Some people wouldn't come on. There was issues that, based on the agenda, they would participate and they would drop off. So I just think it's an idea. It doesn't, like Chair Sanchez, I'm not married to the idea, but I think it's already established. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Gondara. Councilor Flores.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad you saw my hand. I think we're talking about two things here. One is the TNR task force, and there's the one that the ideas that came forth on a lot of things were the animal task force, then there was the animal ordinance task force. There was sort of one and the same. But implementation of the city ordinance is just focused on that. It's not focused on, yeah, it'd be great if we had all sorts of organizations participating. In fact, at the last meeting, Jean Gilbert, there was a woman who was there who was absolutely wonderful in her input, whose name I can't recall, the meeting we had at the East Mesa Safety Complex. But it's more about, the issues we touched on was education and, just educating the public about the TNR program. That was the focus. So, but as Mayor Pro Tem Gandara indicated, there is a greater task force of the animal task force. And that drew, I say minimally 20 people at each meeting, and various people, like if one person didn't show up from one organization, it'd be another. So, I mean, we filled up a big room at City Hall. So, and it was very, very interesting to see that, the many organizations we do have. So we do have that. But I think, if I heard Mayor Pro Tem correctly, I believe she said she didn't see it as a function of of this board. Our board is really, our directive is to, by law, by our JPA, is to direct, we're the board that directs the Animal Service Center. And that task force wasn't necessarily doing that. That wasn't the function. So I just wanted to share that and to clarify the two, and that the TNR pre-formation task force is focused entirely and totally on implementation of the ordinance, city ordinance. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Flores. So I think at least I appreciate the discussion on this, and I think we'll have to figure out kind of what maybe the way we move forward. I know, as Ms. Gilbert had mentioned earlier, one option could be that we still continue with the CFPP, at least for now, and maybe invite a member of the CFPP to present to us. I think like we had during the last meeting with Ms. Quillen, updating that, or we can continue to have discussion, or at least try to find maybe the best venue if we want to try to change that up. But I think the concerns, I've written them down, and I think they're valid. And I just want to make sure, like I said, I think the one thing that I want to try to encourage, or at least try to figure out, is for those members of the CFPP or the rescues, that they're actively giving us information, or at least reaching out to the board, as well as Mr. Thacker, because I know Mr. Thacker is always easily the point of contact. But unless they reach out to us, or at least that, or if Mr. Thacker kind of conveys some of the concerns, which he oftentimes does, we don't understand maybe some of the things that the concerns that the community may be seeing. So I've taken note of it. I appreciate the input, and at least for now, like I said, we'll figure out how to move forward. But at least if we do anything, I'll make sure that we have the board approval, or before we create any major changes here. So if there's no other items, or at least input on this item, I'd like to have one other discussion item, which was 5B, which is future of ASCMV board meetings. The issue, I know we were discussing about meeting in July back at City Council chambers. Unfortunately, it sounds like, at least what Mr. Enriquez had noted or sent me a note on, is that the municipal court is having issues with their air conditioning in their building. And so the city is going to be allowing the court to be utilizing City Council chambers for their hearings. So that leaves us trying to figure out where we can hold our meetings, if we want to meet in person, or we continue to meet via Zoom. I know there's a couple of, so let me put this out there. I know that there's been concern around what happens with the health order and the Attorney General, that that has allowed us to meet via the Zoom venue because of the pandemic. But if the governor allows the emergency health order to expire, will that cause an issue if we're not meeting in person versus over Zoom? So that was one issue. The other one suggestion was that we could meet at the county, but right now, according to our calendar, the Planning and Zoning Commission for the county meets on the same Thursday as we do for the ASCMV board meeting, and it's also at 9 a.m. So I guess I'd like to at least figure out and ask the board, would we prefer to continue in this Zoom format, or do we want to try to find a time where we could meet at, say, the county, which would change the time and or possibly the date of our meetings, at least temporarily, until we can meet back at the city council chambers. Councilor Flores?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Sanchez, Chair Sanchez. Muni Court, at least as far as I saw it with my own eyes, is actually meeting in room 2 on the second floor, and rooms B and C open up. So I don't understand why, or is Mr. Enriquez, are you here, Eric? Hi, Eric. Hi, I saw Muni Court on our second floor, and they're all set up in there. So they're going to be moving to chambers? Is that your?
Well, that's correct, Mr. Chair and Councilor Flores. Yes, the original agreement was to allow Muni Court to come over and use the chambers. They have been using the second floor. There will be some scheduling of the chambers as well. I'd have to double check on that and see if we can lock in this meeting. That's an option. The other thing that it did with municipal court over at City Hall took up the space where we're going to have other meetings, Veteran Advisory Board meetings, other committee meetings. So that's why we're kind of limited the space. And it was a suggestion to see if maybe we could use the county. But I can surely double check with Muni Courts if they're not going to use the chambers, and we can go back to as planned originally, depending on what the board says about in-person meetings.
Thank you. Thank you, Eric, Mr. Enriquez. So it's up in the air. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Councilor Flores. I apologize for that. Gino, I see your hand up.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know that I'm only weighing in for my presentation. When we were doing our presentation in council chambers before COVID, there was an issue with my presentation from the computer at the podium. It being that the map, because it's protected by the CLC network, I wasn't able to present that map at that computer. I can do it here from my desktop because it's on that network, and therefore it's inaccessible to outside threats. Being able to get in and hack the whole entire CLC system. If we move it back to chambers, I will put in a work order to see if IT can help me to just do that part of the presentation. However, I know that if we move it to county commission chambers, I won't be able to present my mapping there. So that's just me. I'm one person, one small cog in this. Just know that from my desktop that I can always present my map. I can present it with difficulties at chambers. I cannot do it at county chambers.
Okay. Thank you, Gino. I appreciate it. Commissioner Allens? You're on mute at the moment.
The Board of Zoning Appeals meets on the fourth Thursday of every month at the county. So unless we were to change the date, the county is really unavailable.
Oh, correct. Thank you, Commissioner Ellens. And that's what, I guess the crux of the question becomes, I guess now that we know that there's a possibility that we still could use city council chambers. So let me pose the question as this to the board members. And I see your hand up, Councilor, sorry, Mayor Pro Tem Gandara, so I'll come to you next. I guess my question to the board is this, is if we cannot meet in the city council chambers, do we want to continue via Zoom if we're allowed to, or do we want to move it to commission chambers, which means we would have to pass probably a resolution to change the date or time. And so we could still meet on this day within, and I know for sure in the commission chambers, but we would have to change the time. So let me pose it at that, and at least I just wanted to get your feedback. Mayor Pro Tem Gandara, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. We're in a quandary, right? So is there an opportunity to meet in the afternoon at the commission? And then my next question is there an opportunity to meet at the upper conference rooms at the city? And how long will municipal court be in need of the chambers? Is it just through the summer months, as hot as it's been? And so I guess I'm posing those questions. I'm open. Obviously, I'd love to come back in person. But I also think that we need to, obviously within the confines of our Attorney General, but I think this having things through Zoom afforded so many people, I think, and maybe Adrian can give us some input or data related to how many people actually gets on via the Zoom and watching, right? Because I heard through YouTube, right? A, B, I don't think everybody has access to the CLC TV through the local channel, if you will. So I think that we really need to pivot and use this as an opportunity for me to continue with this virtual platform to ensure people are as many people that want to watch it. But I'm open to meeting in person, and I think the city conference rooms are available or could be made available.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. And I'll answer the first question. So for the commission chambers, yes, it is available in the afternoon on the fourth Thursday. So we could have it there. And I know we do have the ability for and to do a hybrid meeting, so to speak, where we can meet in person and then via WebEx, if those that could not attend in person or prefer to stay remote, to protect any of the for any of their that might be vulnerable, they can do it via WebEx. And I know we just did our first in-person meeting with the MPO at the county, and we did have a mixed attendance, some in person, some remote. So at least that is an option that we could move the time. It would just have to be the time that we would have to change. Mr. Enriquez, I don't know if you can answer on the availability of conference rooms on the second there at City Hall.
Well, actually, the conference rooms on the second floor is where Muni Court has their staff and their equipment. So they're kind of using the combination of both. I don't know all the details on the chambers, but I will follow up on that, because if they're not going to use the chambers, then it's available. But they are on the second floor in the conference rooms where they have all their equipment and their staff stationed there. And it'll be throughout the summer, through the hot months.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Murillo Trujillo.
Yes, I just wanted to see if the board will take some consideration on my part, being that to me it's more accessible and it's easier for me to use the county building the Las Cruces City Hall, like when I go, I have such a difficult time to find their, whatever room, and it's just a little bit harder for me. So hopefully you can consider doing that at the government center. Thank you.
Oh, good point, Commissioner Trujillo. Absolutely. Yes, I understand. And I'm very open to that as well.
So am I.
Thank you, ma'am.
So I guess this is what at least I'm hearing so far is that I guess we need to find out if the mini court is going to be moving to the chambers. If not, we can continue on possibly in July. But it sounds like we do want to kind of meet, and we would like, there's a preference to meet in person or at least have a hybrid. So if we cannot meet in the chambers, then we would have to, at least from what I believe, we would have to probably pass a resolution that would indicate we would temporarily change the time of the meeting if we wanted to have it at the commission chambers. And I believe our staff would be willing to accommodate that. And like I said, we can do the hybrid there if we need to. So let me propose this, is that we'll wait on getting feedback on whether we can use the council chambers in July. If we cannot, then maybe what we can do is possibly have a special meeting to quickly have a resolution that approves a change in the meeting time. So that way, I think that would give us, I think that's all we would need. And then we could change the time and venue to the county. Is there any objections to that? At least going in that course, taking that course of action? Okay.
By me.
Well, we'll wait, Ms. Enriquez, if you'd be able to follow up, and then we can kind of take maybe the next week. I know we have the 4th of July holiday, but if we can at least get some feedback of what we can, if we need to, then we'll reach out via Clint on setting up with the board to determine a time or a date if we need to make that time change.
So, I'll follow up.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Councilor Flores.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. So no one present at this meeting today. Is everyone present? Is our entire board here today, Mr. Chair? I'm just trying to figure out whether Thursday afternoon for everyone is available to meet. I know, yes, this Thursday, this Thursday of the month is available for me in the afternoon, but is everybody else available? Since no one has spoken up, is the assumption or deduction that everyone's available for an afternoon meeting on the same day?
I guess if you don't mind, I can go around and poll.
I needed some help. Because I was silent, I'm trying to look at a calendar to see what I got, Councilor Flores. So just give me a bit of time here.
Okay. Let me see. Commissioner Allens, would you be able to meet in the afternoon on the 4th Thursday?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Trujillo, would you be able to meet in the afternoon on the 4th Thursday of the month? I think that would be, I guess for July, would be July 22nd.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay.
I did that. Mm-hmm.
Vice Chair Beta-Stuvi, would you be open to meeting in the afternoon?
Yes.
Okay. And then Mayor Pro Tem, I know you're looking up your availability.
Yes, I can. I can.
So then we'll look at that then is if City Council chambers is open, we'll move forward with our normal plan, and we'll probably and we'll look to meet in July in person. If not, then we'll look to plan on meeting in the afternoon of July 22nd in County Commission chambers, and then if there's any resolution or anything we need to change, then we'll coordinate with Clint on how we can set up something to get that approved prior to the meeting on July 22nd to make sure we're good on all fronts. Okay, thank you, Councilor Flores. Appreciate you helping with that. All right. If there's no other input on that, then we'll move on to public input. I have not received any public input. Clint or Bernice, I don't know, have you received any public input?
I have not, sir, no.
Okay.
No, and I have not either.
Thank you. Okay. On that, we'll move on to agenda item number 7, chair and board comments. I don't have, like I said, I think everything, I've got everything I need in terms of where we're looking forward here, but the rest of the board, do you have any input or comments? Okay. Vice Chair Beta Stuvey, and then we'll come back to Commissioner Allens.
Thank you, Chair. I actually wanted to give a member of Mr. Thacker's staff a thank you. Her name is Holly, and she works with coordinating with rescues when the animals have to come in for surgery. I have to say, we recently got a kitten. I know I said I wouldn't, but I did. And she had to come in, and I just watching her interact with the public and her pleasant demeanor with everyone, and just really added. So thank you to your staff, and I think that was great customer service and quality service.
Thank you. I'll pass that on to her. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Commissioner Allens.
There'll be a bit of logistics involved in moving the meeting to the county commission chambers. Clint, who's going to deal with that? Nameplates, for instance.
I was hoping that you would. I'm just kidding. We'll take care of it.
All right.
Thank you.
And Clint, we'll get a heads up just so that way we hold that, at least have a temporary placeholder at the county to make sure, just in case we are going to move it to there. So.
Yeah, and the very worst case scenario, we can have our July meeting via Zoom. So we'll be covered no matter what. We'll have a place to be.
We'll also have to make arrangements with IT to set this up at some point.
Correct. So, okay. Thank you, Commissioner Allens. Councilor Flores, I see your hand up.
Yes, I just want to thank everybody. After our meetings on Thursdays, the last Thursday of the month, I always feel a sense of humanity, for lack of a better word. I just, especially having our meetings on Zoom for the last year and a half or so, and I'm here with my doggy, and I just want to thank everybody for everybody who comes on our call. Leanne, include even Leanne Demouche, our budget person and head of finance interim at this time, and Josh, and William, and just Gino and Mary Lou, and just everybody, Bernice, everybody who, in addition to our board, but Dominic, who does a great job of our Zoom meetings. I just want to thank everybody. These meetings have really, animals are very, near and dear to me, but these meetings are always very heartwarming, and I walk away feeling more humane. I mean, more like a human. Anyway, just wanted to share that. I want to thank you, Mr. Chair, for calling on me when I have all this, Anyway, thank you very, very much, everybody.
Well, thank you, Councilor Flores. And I think the one thing that I've been able to learn and navigate is making sure I have the participant thing up just to make sure I can see who has their hand up. So, well, I guess if there's no other input or board comments, we'll move on to adjournment. Can I get a motion and a second to adjourn?
So moved.
Notice.
Commissioner Allens, seconded by, sorry, Miss.
It could be second, Notice.
Okay. All right. Clint, will you call the roll?
Yes, sir. Board Member Mejia Trujillo.
Yes.
Board Member Allens.
Yes.
Board Member Flores,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Gondara,
Yes.
Vice Chair Abetistubi,
Yes.
and Mr. Chair Sanchez.
Yes. All right. We are adjourned at 11:16 a.m. Thank you, everyone, for joining, and I hope you all have a wonderful and safe rest of Thursday and weekend.
Likewise, thank you.
Bye, everybody.